Okay, boys, this is the next lesson in our series on the New Deal. And we're going to look a bit more in depth at the New Deal. We've looked at Roosevelt's strategy so far, following the 3 R's. I want you to, as your starter, just write down these 4 words and unmix the letters so that you know what they say. I'm going to give you a minute to do that. Okay, so the answers are very straightforward. Number 1, relief. Number 2, recovery. Number 3, reform. Number 4, hope. Okay, all things which were part of Roosevelt's strategy for bringing Americans out of the Great Depression and back to prosperity. The New Deal that Roosevelt created was wide-ranging, covered lots of areas of the economy and of American life. And when we look back on it, we realize that it was mostly constituted by lots of agencies, government groups, government bodies Roosevelt created, in order to oversee certain sectors of the economy. And we call these government bodies that Roosevelt created alphabet agencies. These are all designed to solve problems of unemployment in the USA. Roosevelt spent time on the radio in what are referred to as fireside chats, in order to tell everybody about these agencies and give everyone hope and restore their confidence. I'd like the teacher to pause this video here and just play the YouTube link, which will explain the New Deal and the alphabet agencies very briefly. Okay, so you've had a brief overview. You can see this is alphabet soup, I think, in the video it's referred to, of agencies. Your task, first of all, is to take the diagram of New Deal Town and stick it into your book. That's the first thing to do. Nice and simple. Now you've got your diagram of New Deal Town. You can see that it represents various parts of the economy. Okay, we've got farming, we've got schools, we've got the outdoors. And what I'd like you to do is, using the information on the alphabet agencies on pages 170 to 173, which you either have the textbook or a printout of the textbook in front of you, just read through each of those agencies and then label your diagram accordingly. For example, FERA, you can see, I have drawn a line from FERA out into my book, and I've written down what it is: the Federal Emergency Relief Administration. It helped by $500 million being spent on soup kitchens, blankets, employment, and nursery schools. And that's all I needed to say. So can you look for all the other agencies? You can see that around that tractor there are 3 more. And then label each part of the diagram with the agencies and what they did to help. Okay, I'm going to give you guys, you'll probably need 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes to do this thoroughly. So please stop the video here, teacher, and boys, off you go. Right, now your book should look something like this. You may have written more or less than I have, but you should find that you've covered your book and your diagram in labels, from FERA to the AAA, to the WPA, the NRA, the TVA, the PWA. Okay, when we do our exams in a couple of years' time, you will need to not need to worry about learning every single one thoroughly in detail, but it will help you to have maybe one from each sector. So an agricultural based agency and other agencies from other sectors of the economy. It'll help you to have one for each sector in your memory bank. Okay, so I hope that you've got thoroughly written explanations here, and hopefully this diagram will be able to help you easily revise in the future. To finish off the lesson today, I've got two exam style questions. First of all, describe how the New Deal helped to solve problems caused by the Depression. Really straightforward. I want you to write down the question, and then for your answer, you need to make two detailed points. For each of those two detailed points, you say, what was the problem? And then what was the solution? And make sure you explain it in full, please. Don't just say there were no jobs. Explain, how large was unemployment? Why were there no jobs? And what was the solution that the New Deal offered? And then do that again for another point. This is 4 marks, so in the exam you'd have 5 minutes, but I think, teacher, we're going to allow the boys to have between, let's say, between 5 and 10, depending on how well they're doing, how fast they're writing. Okay, off you go, boys. And finally, one more exam question, a bit more in depth this time. On page 171, you've got 2 sources. One of them is a picture of President Roosevelt throwing out the trash. He is throwing out basically the policies and legacy of Hoover. And the other source shows Uncle Sam, which is a representation of America, the man in the middle. He has his arms over a worker and a businessman, and that is showing how the federal government of America, through the NRA, helped workers and businessmen. I'd like you to answer these questions. Describe how Roosevelt is shown in source 12A and how former President Hoover is shown in 12A, and then say what that means, what the message of the cartoon is. I want you to describe what Roosevelt is doing and what that means. And then in 1933, I want you to say what was happening in 1933 and why that would make someone draw this cartoon. Okay, so 3 bullet points, and answer in full sentences, please. Don't leave out any details. And have the rest of the lesson to do this, boys. I look forward to seeing you again next week. And thank you, teacher, for helping the boys this morning.